Captain Lee Do-hyun stood on the bridge of the Soul's Pride, watching the massive viewscreen display Earth shrinking behind them. The ship was enormous, 12 kilometers of steel, weapons, and human engineering. It was ugly compared to the sleek alien ships they had seen in intercepted transmissions. But Do-hyun didn't care about pretty. He cared about results. "Captain, we're clearing Earth's gravity well," reported Lieutenant Han Ji-won from the communications station. Her voice was steady, but Do-hyun could hear the excitement underneath. This was humanity's first real journey into the galaxy, and everyone knew it. Admiral Park Min-ho had been clear during the briefing 3 days ago. "The galaxy thinks we're primitives," he had said, pacing in front of the senior staff. "They've been watching us for 50 years, ever since we figured out faster-than-light travel. To them, we're just another young species that might be worth trading with in a few hundred years." Dr. Kim Yuna had disagreed. "They're wrong about us, Admiral. Our technology might look different from theirs, but it works just as well. Maybe better in some ways." Do-hyun remembered how the room had gone quiet when Yuna said that. She was the smartest person on the ship, maybe the smartest human alive when it came to alien technology. If she thought they had advantages, she was probably right. The Soul's Pride was proof of human stubbornness. While other species built ships that relied on energy shields and beam weapons, humans had built something that looked like a flying fortress. The hull was 3 meters thick in places, covered with armor that could stop anything the aliens had shown in their broadcasts. The weapons were different too. Kinetic cannons that fired solid metal at incredible speeds, missile systems that could saturate an area with explosives, and close-range guns that could tear through almost anything. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," Han Ji-won said suddenly. "It's not from Earth." Do-hyun turned sharply. "Put it on screen." The view screen flickered, then showed a face that was almost human but not quite. The skin was blue-tinted and the eyes were larger than normal. When it spoke, the translation system turned its words into clear English. "To the human vessel, this is Emergency Coordinator Veltar of the Kepler Trade Union. We are transmitting on all frequencies in hope that someone will hear us. The Void Reapers have returned. They are attacking our colonies. We need help." The transmission showed images that made Do-hyun's blood run cold. Massive black ships shaped like insects were tearing apart space stations. Planets burned as dark machines swarmed across their surfaces. Refugee ships fled in panic while the attackers destroyed everything behind them. "Captain," said Commander Oh Tae-won from the security station, "I'm reading dozens of similar transmissions. Different species, but they're all talking about the same thing. These Void Reapers." Dr. Kim Yuna was already working at her station, pulling up data they had collected over the years. "I've heard mentions of them in alien communications. They're some kind of machine race. Very old, very dangerous. Most species consider them a myth or ancient history." "Apparently not," Do-hyun said grimly. He opened a channel to Admiral Park back on Earth. The transmission would take several minutes to reach home, but Park needed to know what they were seeing. "Admiral, this is Do-hyun. We've intercepted distress calls from multiple alien species. Something called the Void Reapers is attacking them. Based on the data we're seeing, this isn't a small raid. It looks like a full-scale war." While they waited for a response, more transmissions came in. Species that had never talked to humans before were broadcasting desperate pleas for help. The strange thing was that none of the major galactic powers seemed to be responding. The humans intercepted military communications showing fleets retreating, rather than engaging the Reapers. "They're running away," said Lieutenant Cho Moran from the fighter control station. "All of them." "Why aren't they fighting?" Chief Engineer Kang Hyun-sik looked up from his displays. "Maybe they tried before and it didn't work out so well." When Admiral Park's response finally came through, his voice was tense but determined. "Captain, you have new orders. Proceed to the Kepler system and assess the situation. Do not engage unless absolutely necessary, but gather as much intelligence as possible. The President and the Council want to know what we're dealing with." Do-hyun smiled slightly. "Trust the humans to head toward danger when everyone else was running away from it." "Understood, Admiral. We're changing course now." The Soul's Pride turned toward the Kepler system, its massive engines pushing it faster than any human ship had ever traveled. Along the way, they encountered refugee fleets, hundreds of ships carrying millions of beings from dozens of species. Most ignored human attempts at communication, but a few responded with surprise. "You're going toward the Reapers?" asked one alien captain whose species looked like walking trees. Why would you do something so foolish? Someone needs to help, Han Ji-won had replied simply. Dr. Shin Ara, the chief medical officer, was the first to suggest bringing refugees aboard. Captain, some of these ships have wounded. Our medical bay could help them. Oh Taewon objected immediately. Sir, we don't know anything about alien biology. We could make things worse, or they could have diseases that affect humans. But Dr. Kim Yuna supported Shin Ara's idea. We've studied their biology from intercepted data. Basic first aid should work for most oxygen-breathing species, and helping them might make them more willing to share information. Do-hyun made the decision that would change everything. Do it. Bring aboard anyone who needs medical help. The aliens were shocked. When human doctors started treating their wounded without asking for payment or making demands, Dr. Shinar and her team worked for 18 hours straight, saving lives and learning about alien biology at the same time. Word spread quickly through the refugee fleet. The humans were different from other species. Captain, reported Han Ji-won after the first day of rescue operations, we're getting communications from all over this sector. They want to know who we are and why we're helping. Tell them we're humans. And we help because it's the right thing to do, Do-hyun replied. As the Soul's Pride continued toward the Kepler system, its reputation preceded it. The galaxy was starting to pay attention to this new species that flew toward danger instead of away from it. Some aliens called the humans crazy. Others whispered that maybe crazy was exactly what the galaxy needed. Do-hyun stood on his bridge watching the stars ahead. Somewhere in that darkness, an ancient enemy was destroying everything in its path. Every other species with faster ships and better weapons had decided the fight was hopeless. The humans were about to prove them wrong. The Soul's Pride dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kepler system, and Captain Lee Do-hyun immediately understood why the other species were terrified. The space around them was filled with debris, pieces of space stations, broken ships, and chunks of metal that had once been someone's home. Captain, I'm reading massive energy signatures ahead, reported Lieutenant Han Ji-won. Multiple contacts, but they're not moving in any pattern I recognize. Show me, Do-hyun ordered. The main screen displayed a view that made everyone on the bridge go quiet. 3 planets in the system were burning. Not just their surfaces, the entire worlds were glowing with an unnatural red light. Around them, thousands of dark shapes moved like a swarm of insects. Those are the Void Reapers, whispered Dr. Kim Yuna, studying her readings. They're not just attacking the planets. They're taking them apart piece by piece. Commander Oh Taewon leaned forward at his station. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from one of the inner planets. It's weak, but it's there. Put it through. The screen flickered to show an alien that looked like a cross between a human and a bird. Its feathers were burned and one of its arms hung uselessly at its side. This is Governor Crick's van of Kepler Prime. If anyone can hear this, please help us. The machines came without warning. They ignore all attempts at communication. They just destroy everything. We have maybe 6 hours before our shields fail completely. Dr. Shin Ara stepped forward. Captain, that's a kelp-human hybrid species. Our medical knowledge should work on them. How many people are we talking about? Do-hyun asked. Han Ji-won worked at her controls. I'm reading approximately 2 million life signs on that planet, sir. But the Reapers have them completely surrounded. Chief Engineer Kang Haeun-sik shook his head. Captain, with respect, we're one ship against thousands of enemy vessels. Even with all our firepower, the math doesn't work. Do-hyun studied the tactical display. The engineer was right. Any sane person would retreat and report what they had seen. But Do-hyun was starting to understand something about humans that the galaxy didn't know yet. Humans weren't always sane, and sometimes that was exactly what made them dangerous. Moran, he called to Lieutenant Cho Moran at the fighter control station. How many fighters can you get in space in the next 10 minutes? All of them, sir. 48 fighters ready for launch. Hyun-sik, what's our torpedo inventory? 600 Mark 7 kinetic torpedoes, Captain. Plus 800 smaller missiles. Do-hyun smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. Han Ji-won, open a channel to the planet. When the connection was established, he spoke directly to Governor Crick's van. Governor, this is Captain Lee Do-hyun of the human ship Soul's Pride. We're here to help, but we need you to do exactly what I tell you. The alien's large eyes widened. Human, but your species is barely spacefaring. Why would you come here? Because someone needs to, Do-hyun replied. Now listen carefully. In exactly 15 minutes, we're going to create a hole in the Reaper formation. When we do, I need every ship you have to launch toward this position. He transmitted coordinates to the planet. Captain? Otewan said quietly. What's the plan? Doyun turned to address his bridge crew. The Reapers have been fighting advanced civilizations for thousands of years. They know how those civilizations think and fight, but they've never seen humans in combat before. We're going to do things they don't expect. Dr. Kim Yuna was running calculations on her screen. Their ships seemed to be optimized against energy weapons, particle beams, plasma cannons, things like that. Our kinetic weapons might be more effective than they're designed to handle. That's what I'm counting on, Do-hyun said. Moran, launch all fighters. Have them form up behind us but stay hidden until I give the word. Hyunsik, charge all forward kinetic batteries and prepare torpedo tubes 1 through 20. The Soul's Pride moved deeper into the system, its massive bulk drawing immediate attention from the Reaper forces. The alien ships were strange. They looked organic despite being machines. Like someone had tried to build metal insects the size of skyscrapers. Captain, they're moving to intercept us, reported Han Ji-won. I count 47 vessels converging on our position. Good. Let them come. Do-hyun watched the tactical display as the Reapers approached. They moved in perfect formation, their attack pattern elegant and efficient. It was exactly what he had expected from machines that had fought the same way for millennia. All ships, this is the human vessel. He broadcast on all frequencies. Watch and learn. When the Reapers opened fire, their energy weapons struck the Soul's Pride's armor and were absorbed or deflected. The human ship had been built to fight other humans, and humans always assumed their enemies would shoot back with everything they had. The armor held. But when the Soul's Pride returned fire, the results were spectacular. 20 kinetic torpedoes, each weighing several tons and moving at incredible speed, slammed into the leading Reaper ships. The machines had shields designed to stop energy, but solid matter moving at that velocity was something else entirely. 3 Reaper ships simply disintegrated. 4 others were sent spinning out of control, leaking atmosphere and sparking with electrical damage. Now, Do-hyun shouted. Lieutenant Cho Moran's fighters burst out from behind the Soul's Pride like angry wasps. Instead of engaging in elegant dogfights, they dove straight into the Reaper formation, firing everything they had at point-blank range before breaking away. It was suicide tactics by alien standards, but human pilots were trained differently. They knew their ships could take damage and keep flying. The Reapers, suddenly facing a completely different style of warfare, hesitated for just a moment. It was enough. Hyunsik full spread all forward tubes. 180 more torpedoes streaked toward the confused Reaper formation. The explosions lit up the darkness of space as machine ships that had terrorized the galaxy for ages found themselves, outmatched by human stubbornness and firepower. This is Governor Crixvan to the human ship, came the transmission from the planet. We're launching now. All civilian ships are away from the surface. Dr. Shin Ara was monitoring the refugee ships as they fled toward the Soul's Pride. Captain, some of those ships have wounded aboard. If we could get them to our medical bay. Do it, Do-hyun ordered without hesitation. We're not leaving anyone behind. As the human ship covered the evacuation, word of the battle spread across the galaxy at the speed of light. Species that had written off the Kepler system as lost watched in amazement as a single human vessel did what their entire fleets had been afraid to attempt. Captain, Han Ji-won reported, I'm receiving communications from dozens of species. They want to know who we are and how we did that. Commander O Taiwan was studying his tactical display with a puzzled expression. Sir, the remaining Reaper ships are retreating. I've never seen anything like it. According to the intelligence we gathered, Reapers don't retreat. Dr. Kim Yuna looked up from her analysis. They're learning. They adapted to energy weapons over thousands of years, but we just showed them something completely new. They need time to figure out how to counter our tactics. Do-hyun nodded grimly, which means they'll be back and next time they'll be ready for us. So what do? Asked Chief Engineer Kang Hyunsik. Do-hyun looked at the rescued alien ships docking with their vessel, then at the burning planets in the distance. We get ready for them first. 3 days after the battle at Kepler Prime, the Soul's Pride had become the center of the largest refugee fleet in galactic history. Ships from 40 different species followed the human vessel as it moved through space, and Captain Lee Do-hyun was learning that being a hero came with complications. Captain, we have another problem. reported Lieutenant Han Jiwan from her communication station. The Thrakari delegation wants to speak with you again. They're insisting that their people should have priority access to our medical facilities because they're a level 7 civilization. Commander Otewan snorted from his security post. Level 7 civilization. What does that even mean? Dr. Kim Yuna looked up from her analysis station. It's a galactic ranking system based on technology and territory. Humans aren't even classified yet, we're too new. The Thrakari think that makes them more important than us. Tell the Thrakari delegation that Dr. Shinara treats patients based on how badly they're hurt, not how advanced their civilization is, Dohyun said firmly. That's how humans do medicine. This was the 15th time this week he'd had to explain human values to aliens who didn't understand them. The galaxy ran on hierarchies and ancient rules about who was important and who wasn't. Humans ignored all of that, and it was driving some species crazy. Sir, incoming transmission from Admiral Park, announced Han Jiwan. Put him through. Admiral Park Minho's face appeared on the main screen, and Dohyun could see the stress lines around his eyes. Captain, I've got good news and bad news. The good news is that the entire galactic community is talking about what you did at Kepler Prime. Half of them think you're heroes and the other half think you're dangerous maniacs. And the bad news? The bad news is that we've detected massive Reaper fleet movements throughout this spiral arm. They're not just raiding anymore, they're mobilizing for war. And intelligence suggests they're specifically hunting for human ships. Dr. Kim Yuna leaned forward. Admiral, that actually makes sense. We disrupted their standard operating procedure. From their perspective, we're a new variable that needs to be eliminated. Chief Engineer Kang Hyun-sik was monitoring the ship's systems when his board lit up with alerts. Captain, we've got multiple contacts dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Distance, 12 million kilometers and closing fast. How many? Dohyun asked, though he was afraid he already knew the answer. I count 87 vessels, sir, all matching Reaper energy signatures. The bridge went quiet for a moment. At Kepler Prime, they had faced less than 50 Reaper ships and barely won. Now they were outnumbered nearly 2-1, and they had thousands of refugee ships to protect. Admiral, Dohyun said to the screen, we have a situation here. Park's expression hardened. Understood, Captain. Reinforcements are on the way, but it will take them 6 hours to reach you. We might not have 6 hours. Lieutenant Cho Moran spoke up from her fighter control station. Captain, request permission to launch all fighters. If we're going to do this, we need every advantage we can get. Granted. All fighters launch immediately. Dohyun turned to Han Jiwan. Signal the refugee fleet. Tell them to jump to faster than light as soon as possible. Give them these coordinates. He transmitted a location deep in human space. Sir, Otewan said quietly, most of those refugee ships are unarmed civilian vessels. Even if we tell them to run, some of them won't make it. Dohyun studied the tactical display. The Reaper fleet was approaching in a different formation this time. More spread out, more cautious. They had learned from the last battle and adapted their tactics. Hyun-sik, how are our ammunition stores? We've got plenty of kinetic rounds for the main guns, but we're down to 400 torpedoes after the last fight. Dr. Kim, what have you learned about Reaper weaknesses? Dr. Kim Yuna called up her analysis on the main screen. Their ships are incredibly tough, but they have one major flaw. They rely on networked intelligence. All their ships are connected to a central command system. If we could disrupt that network somehow, how do we do that? I'm not sure yet. But Captain, I noticed something during the last battle. When we destroyed those first 3 ships, the rest of their formation hesitated for almost 2 seconds. That suggests they need time to process unexpected information. An idea began forming in Dohyun's mind. It was crazy even by human standards, but crazy seemed to work against the Reapers. Moran, how many fighters do we have operational?
41, sir.
We lost 7 in the last engagement. I want you to divide them into 3 groups. The first group is going to do exactly what they did last time. Attack formation, full aggressive engagement. The second group is going to do something the Reapers won't expect. What's that, Captain? Dohyun smiled grimly. They're going to ram Reaper ships. The bridge went silent except for the hum of the ship's systems. Commander Otewan was the first to speak. Sir, with respect, that's suicide. No, Dohyun said firmly. Suicide would be giving up. This is calculated aggression. Our fighters are small and fast. If they hit Reaper ships at the right angle, they can disable them without necessarily destroying themselves. And even if some fighters are lost, Each disabled Reaper ship is one less threat to the refugee fleet. Lieutenant Cho Marin was studying the tactical data. It could work, sir. Our fighters are built tough, and pilot survival training includes crash landing procedures. And the third group? Asked Dr. Kim Yuna. The third group is going to help us test your theory about their network. They're going to target the largest Reaper ship, the one that's probably coordinating the others. Han Ji-won looked up from her communication station. Captain, I'm receiving a transmission from one of the refugee ships. It's the Vortanian merchant vessel Silver Wind. Captain Zelkarn wants to speak with you. Put him through. The screen showed an alien that looked like a cross between a human and an octopus. When he spoke, his voice was firm despite the translator's mechanical tone. Captain Do-yun, my ship has defensive weapons. We're not military, but we can fight. Several other civilian vessels have made the same decision. We want to help. Captain Zelkarn, I appreciate the offer, but civilian ships shouldn't be in combat. With respect, Captain, you're wrong. This is our fight too. The Reapers destroyed our homes. If we run every time they appear, we'll never stop running. Taewon leaned over to Do-hyun. Sir, I'm reading weapons signatures from 12 of the refugee ships. They're not military grade, but they could provide covering fire. Do-hyun made a decision that would be remembered throughout galactic history. All right, Captain Zelkarn. But you follow my orders exactly. No heroics, no individual action. We fight as one fleet. Understood, Captain. As the Reaper fleet closed to weapons range, Do-hyun opened a channel to all human and allied vessels. This is Captain Lee Do-hyun to all ships. The Reapers think they know how we fight because they studied our last battle. They're wrong. Today we show them that humans don't just have one way of fighting. We have as many ways as we need. All vessels engage at will. The Soul's Pride fired first, its massive kinetic cannon sending solid shot toward the Reaper formation. But this time, instead of a concentrated barrage, the shots were spread across the entire enemy fleet, not to destroy, but to confuse and separate. Lieutenant Cho Maran's first fighter group attacked exactly as they had before. Diving into the Reaper formation with guns blazing, the machine ships moved to counter this familiar tactic, their formation shifting to deal with the expected threat. That's when the second fighter group struck, 20 human pilots, screaming battle cries that their ancestors would have recognized, slammed their small ships directly into Reaper vessels at full speed. The impact sent machine ships spinning, their systems overloaded and their hulls cracked. But it was the third group that achieved something unprecedented. Led by Lieutenant Park Jin-woo, 12 fighters concentrated all their firepower on the largest Reaper ship's communication arrays. The machine vessel, suddenly cut off from its network, began moving erratically. Within seconds, the entire Reaper fleet was in chaos as individual ships tried to operate without central coordination. It worked, shouted Dr. Kim Yuna. They can't function properly without their network connection. The civilian ships, inspired by human courage, pressed their attack. Merchant vessels that had never fired a shot in anger were suddenly pouring everything they had into confused Reaper ships. Captain, reported Han Ji-won, I'm reading massive explosions throughout the Reaper fleet. They're retreating again. Do-hyun watched as the surviving machine ships fled toward the edge of the system. For the second time, humans had done the impossible. But this time, the entire galaxy had been watching. The Soul's Pride had become more than just a ship. It was now the flagship of the largest multi-species fleet in galactic history. Captain Lee Do-hyun stood on his bridge, looking at tactical displays that showed over 300 vessels from dozens of different civilizations.
All because humans had done something the galaxy thought was impossible. They had beaten the Void Reapers twice. Captain, reported Science Officer Jang Woo-bin.
The data analysis from our recent battles is complete. The Reapers are definitely adapting faster than any previous intelligence suggested. Each engagement shows them learning from the last one. Dr. Kim Yuna nodded from her station. The concerning part is that they're not just adapting their tactics. They're physically modifying their ships between battles, some kind of self-repair and upgrade system, which means the next time we fight them, they'll be ready for our kinetic weapons and ramming attacks, Commander Taewon observed grimly. Lieutenant Han Ji-won looked up from her communications console. Captain, we're receiving another diplomatic request. This one is from the Galactic Council itself. They want to meet with you. Do-hyun had been expecting this. The Galactic Council was the closest thing the galaxy had to a unified government. representing the most powerful civilizations in known space. For 50 years, they had ignored humanity's requests for formal contact. Now they wanted to talk. What's their message? They're requesting an immediate ceasefire with the Reapers and want humanity to attend an emergency session to discuss recent developments in interspecies warfare. Medical Officer Dr. Yang Hyun looked up from her reports. A ceasefire? Captain, I've got patients from 17 different species in our medical bay. All of them lost family to Reaper attacks. They're not going to understand why we would stop fighting. Strategic analyst Bae Jiho was studying intelligence reports at his station. Captain, I'm seeing troubling patterns in galactic communications. Several major powers are suggesting that humanity's aggressive tactics are destabilizing the established order. Meaning what exactly? Do-hyun asked. Meaning they're more afraid of us changing how wars are fought than they are of the Reapers winning this one. The irony wasn't lost on any of the humans. For millennia, the galaxy had accepted the Reapers as an unstoppable force of nature. Species would flee, hide, or submit when the machines appeared. The idea of actually fighting back was so foreign to galactic thinking that some civilizations considered it dangerous. Sir, reported Lieutenant Cho Moran from Fighter Control, I'm reading massive energy signatures at the edge of sensor range. Multiple contacts, counting at least 200 vessels, all Reaper configuration. Chief Engineer Kang Hyun-sik's displays lit up with warnings. Captain, that's not just a fleet. Based on these readings, some of those ships are the size of space stations. Dr. Kim Yuna was already analyzing the sensor data. They're bringing everything they have. This isn't another probing attack. This is their full response to what we've been doing. Do-hyun opened a channel to Admiral Park back on Earth. When the connection established, Park's face showed the strain of coordinating humanity's first galactic war. Admiral, we have a situation. The Reapers are massing for a major assault and the Galactic Council wants us to negotiate a ceasefire. I heard, Park replied. The Council sent representatives to Earth as well. They're suggesting that humanity withdraw from the conflict in exchange for full membership in the galactic community. What did you tell them? I told them that humans don't abandon their friends. Park's expression hardened. Captain, I'm sending you everything we have. Every available ship, every weapon system we've developed. But even with all of that, you're going to be outnumbered 10 to 1. Strategic analyst Bae Jiho looked up from his station. Captain, I'm intercepting communications from the various species in our fleet. Some of them are having second thoughts. The Thrakari delegation is suggesting that discretion might be the better part of valor. And the others? Mixed reactions. The species that have lost the most to Reaper attacks want to keep fighting. But some of the more advanced civilizations are listening to Council propaganda about humanity being recklessly aggressive. Lieutenant Han Ji-won interrupted. Captain, priority transmission from Captain Zel Karn on the Silver Wind. Put him through. The Vortanian merchant captain appeared on screen, and Do-hyun could see determination in his alien features. Captain Do-hyun, I've been in contact with other civilian ship captains. We've made a decision. What kind of decision? We're not leaving. The Galactic Council can talk about ceasefires all they want, but the Reapers destroyed our homes. We're going to fight beside you until this is finished. Dr. Yang Haeun smiled from her medical station. Captain, I'm getting similar messages from patients in our medical bay. Species that have barely been able to walk are asking to be assigned to combat stations. Commander Oh Tae-won was studying tactical projections. Sir, even with all the civilian volunteers, we're still massively outgunned. The Reapers are bringing ships we've never seen before, capital vessels that dwarf anything in our fleet. Then we'll have to be smarter than them, Do-hyun said simply. Science Officer Jang Woo-bin looked up from his analysis. Captain, I think I've found something. The Reapers communicate through quantum entanglement networks, instantaneous communication across any distance. But there's a weakness in the system. What kind of weakness? The network requires massive computing power to coordinate all those ships simultaneously. If we could overload their system with too much information to process, Dr. Kim Yuna was already working on the calculations. It would be like giving a computer more problems to solve than it can handle. The whole system would slow down or crash. How do we overload their network? Jang Woo-bin brought up a tactical display. We make every ship in our fleet do something completely unpredictable at exactly the same time. Give their central intelligence so many variables to calculate that it can't keep up. Lieutenant Cho Moran was studying the plan. It could work, but it would require perfect coordination between hundreds of ships from different species, using different technologies with different capabilities. Sounds like a job for humans, Do-hyun said with a slight smile. Over the next 6 hours, as the Reaper fleet approached, something unprecedented happened. Under human coordination, species that had been enemies for centuries began working together. Ancient rivals shared tactical data. Civilian merchants took orders from military officers of completely different civilizations. The key was that humans didn't care about galactic politics or ancient grudges. They cared about results. "Captain," reported Han Ji-won, "the Earth reinforcement fleet is arriving. Admiral Park is aboard the flagship New Seoul." The reinforcements were impressive. 26 human vessels, including 4 more Titan-class warships. But even with the additions, the combined fleet was still outnumbered by more than 8 to 1. "Admiral Park to all ships," came the transmission. "I know the odds look bad. The Galactic Council has made it clear that if we lose this battle, humanity will be blamed for destabilizing galactic peace. If we win, we'll be feared as warmongers." Do-hyun opened a fleet-wide channel. "This is Captain Do-hyun. The Admiral is right about the politics. But here's what the Council doesn't understand. We're not fighting for politics. We're fighting because it's the right thing to do. The Reapers have been terrorizing this galaxy for thousands of years and everyone just accepted it. Well, humans don't accept things just because that's how they've always been." Across the fleet, alien voices began responding. Captain Zelkarn of the Silver Wind was first. "The humans are right. It's time to stop running." Governor Krixvan, now aboard a refugee vessel, added, "My people stand with humanity." One by one, ship captains from dozens of species declared their commitment to the fight. The Galactic Council had offered them the easy path: surrender and return to the old ways. Instead, they chose to follow humans into a battle they might not survive. As the Reaper fleet entered weapons range, Do-hyun realized that win or lose, the galaxy would never be the same. Humans had shown other species that the impossible was just another word for difficult. "All ships," he broadcast, "prepare for battle." The final battle began not with weapons fire, but with silence. Captain Lee Do-hyun stood on the bridge of the Seoul's Pride, watching as the largest Reaper fleet in recorded history formed up at the edge of the system. 216 machine vessels, including massive ships that looked like mechanical planets with weapons bristling from every surface. "Captain," whispered Lieutenant Han Ji-won, "they're just sitting there. Why aren't they attacking?" Dr. Kim Yuna was studying her sensors with intense concentration. "They're analyzing us. Every ship in our fleet, every weapon signature, every tactical formation we've used in previous battles. They're making sure they're ready for everything we might do." "Everything we've done before," corrected Science Officer Jang Woo-bin. "But not everything we're going to do." Admiral Park Min-ho's voice came through the communication system from the flagship New Seoul. "All ships, this is Admiral Park. Intelligence reports indicate that the Galactic Council is monitoring this battle from long-range observation posts. Win or lose, our actions here will determine humanity's place in the galaxy." Commander Oh Tae-won looked up from his tactical station. No pressure at all. Strategic analyst Bae Ji-ho was coordinating with ships throughout the fleet. "Captain, all vessels report ready for Operation Chaos Storm. Every ship knows their part in the plan." Chief Engineer Kang Hyun-sik shook his head in amazement.
"Sir, I still can't believe we got all these different species to agree to coordinate this precisely."
"Half of them have been enemies for centuries. That's because humans don't care about ancient grudges when there's work to be done," Do-hyun replied. "Jang Woo-bin, what's the status on the quantum communication network?" "All ships are linked, sir. When we give the signal, every vessel in our fleet will execute completely random maneuvers simultaneously. The Reaper network will have to process and respond to over 300 unpredictable variables at once." Lieutenant Cho Moran was running final checks on the fighter squadrons. "All fighters ready for launch, Captain." "This time we're not just attacking, we're performing." Dr. Yang Hyun looked up from her medical station. "Captain, I've got volunteers from 16 species asking to be assigned to combat stations, including some of the patients from our medical bay who can barely stand." "Tell them they're needed where they are," Do-hyun said gently. "Everyone has a part to play in this." The waiting ended when the Reaper fleet suddenly surged forward, moving in perfect formation toward the human-led alliance. Their approach was methodical, calculated, designed to counter every tactic the humans had used in previous battles. "Here they come," announced Otewan. "All ships prepare for engagement." "Not yet," Do-hyun said calmly. "Let them get closer. We need them to commit to their attack formation before we spring the trap." The Reaper ships opened fire at maximum range, their energy weapons creating a deadly light show across space. But the Alliance fleet didn't respond the way the machines expected. Instead of returning fire or trying to evade, the ships began moving in seemingly random patterns. "Now," shouted Do-hyun. What happened next was unlike anything in galactic military history. Every ship in the Alliance fleet simultaneously executed a different, completely unpredictable maneuver. Human vessels dove straight toward Reaper ships before spinning away at the last second. Alien cruisers performed barrel rolls that should have been impossible for ships their size. Civilian merchants launched cargo containers that exploded into clouds of reflective debris. The Reaper network, faced with processing hundreds of chaotic variables simultaneously, began to slow down. Machine ships that had moved in perfect coordination started hesitating. Their responses delayed as their central intelligence struggled to analyze the chaos. "It's working," reported Dr. Kim Yuna. "Their reaction times are increasing." "The network is overloading." Lieutenant Cho Moran launched her fighters into the confusion, but instead of attacking in formation, each fighter performed a different aerobatic routine while firing wildly in all directions. To outside observers, it looked like complete madness. To the Reaper network trying to predict and counter each individual action, it was computational overload. "All ships, Phase 2, Do-hyun commanded. The Alliance fleet suddenly switched tactics. While the Reapers were still processing the chaos, human kinetic weapons opened fire in coordinated volleys. Not at the Reaper ships themselves, but at specific points in space calculated by Yang Wubin's computers. The kinetic rounds, traveling at incredible velocity, struck the Reaper formation just as their ships were moving through those exact positions. Machine vessels that had dodged energy weapons for millennia found themselves unable to avoid solid projectiles, fired at where they would be rather than where they were. "Direct hits on 17 targets," reported Otewan with satisfaction. They never saw it coming, but the Reapers adapted quickly. The surviving ships spread out and began targeting individual Alliance vessels with concentrated fire. The battle became a desperate melee as both sides struggled for advantage. "Captain," called Dr. Yang Hyun from her medical station, "casualties are mounting. We're taking heavy damage across the fleet." The Soul's Pride shuddered as Reaper weapons found their mark, but the massive human ship kept fighting. Around them, civilian vessels with improvised weapons stood toe-to-toe with machine warships designed for conquest. Admiral Park's voice cut through the chaos. "All ships, this is Admiral Park. The Reapers are falling back to regroup. Now's our chance for the final phase." Do-hyun opened a fleet-wide channel. "This is it, everyone. Everything we've done, everything we've sacrificed has led to this moment. Show them what happens when the galaxy decides to fight back." Science Officer Jang Wubin had been saving the best for last. "Captain, I've identified the Reaper command ship, that massive vessel in the center of their formation. If we can disable its quantum communication array, their entire network will collapse. How do we get through their defenses?" "We do what humans do best," Jang Wubin smiled grimly. "We do something completely insane." The plan was simple in concept, impossible in execution. The Soul's Pride, supported by every available ship, would charge directly at the Reaper command vessel. Not to destroy it, but to ram it at full speed while every other ship in the fleet provided covering fire. "Sir," said Otewan quietly, "this will likely destroy our ship. The collision forces alone—" "I know," Do-hyun replied. "All non-essential personnel to escape pods. Anyone who wants to leave can go now." Nobody moved. Lieutenant Han Ji-won spoke for the bridge crew. "Captain, with respect, we're staying. All of us." The Soul's Pride began its final charge, engines at maximum power heading directly for the heart of the Reaper fleet. Around them, every ship in the Alliance provided covering fire, their weapons creating a corridor of destruction through the machine forces. Captain Zelkarn's voice came over the communication system. "It has been an honor fighting beside humans. Whatever happens, the galaxy will remember what you taught us." The massive human ship struck the Reaper command vessel at full speed. The collision was visible from several star systems away, as two enormous vessels tore each other apart in a shower of metal and energy. But in the moment before impact, Chief Engineer Kang Hyunsik had done something that would become legend. He had rigged the Soul's Pride's entire supply of kinetic torpedoes to detonate simultaneously, creating an explosion that didn't just destroy the Reaper command ship, it sent quantum feedback through their entire network. Across the battlefield, machine ships that had operated for thousands of years suddenly went dark. Without their network connection, they were just empty hulls drifting in space. The silence that followed was profound. For the first time in galactic history, a Reaper fleet had been completely destroyed. Lieutenant Cho Moran, aboard one of the few human fighters that survived, was the first to break the silence. "Soul's Pride, do you copy?" Static filled the communications channel. Then impossibly, Captain Do-hyun's voice came through, weak but clear. "This is Soul's Pride, we're alive mostly." Engineering reports that were held together by hull patches and stubborn determination. The cheer that went up from the Alliance fleet could probably be heard on nearby planets. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy learned what it meant to have humans as neighbors. The Galactic Council, faced with the reality that a primitive species had accomplished what their advanced civilizations couldn't, was forced to completely revise their understanding of galactic politics. Captain Lee Do-hyun, now promoted to admiral, found himself representing humanity at the first truly democratic Galactic Congress. Species that had been enemies for millennia worked together, inspired by the human example of cooperation in the face of impossible odds. The Soul's Pride, rebuilt and improved, became the flagship of a new kind of fleet, one where humans and aliens served side by side, not because of treaties or political arrangements, but because they had chosen to trust each other. Dr. Kim Yuna, studying the wreckage of the Reaper command ship, made a discovery that would change everything. The machines hadn't been evil conquerors. They had been trying to prepare the galaxy for an even greater threat that lay beyond known space. But they had chosen the wrong method, trying to unite the galaxy through fear rather than hope.